Alright, in this video, I have compiled all of my previous Fortnite exotic concept videos into one big video. If you guys happen to enjoy this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing and using code WATSOG in the Fortnite item shop. And yeah, that's about it. Let's get straight into the video. Alright, first we have the Lawless Wild Wasp Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Ranger Assault Rifle, and when you damage an opponent with the Lawless Wild Wasp Rifle, a swarm of wild wasps will spawn and chase your opponent. If you don't remember what wild wasps are, those are the little bugs in the jar from Chapter 4 Season 3 that were basically just a stink bomb, but they would like follow you a little bit. They were kind of weird, but I think this would be an interesting weapon, and I think it would be kind of like a better version of the stink hunting rifle, because that weapon, it was good because it was a hunting rifle, but the stink effect really had nothing to do with why it was good. It was just good because the base weapon was already good. The Ranger Assault Rifle is just kind of an alright weapon, but this would make the weapon a bit better, you know? It would basically spawn a stink cloud every time you hit your opponent, which with an AR is a lot better because it's more spammable, you know? This weapon's not too spammable because it's a slow firing AR, but still it could do the job well, and I think it's a solid idea for an exotic weapon. Next, we have the Lawless Cluster Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Sentinel Pump Shotgun, and when you hit an opponent with the Lawless Cluster Shotgun, a mini cluster clinger will attach to your opponent, and this cluster clinger only does a total of 30 damage, so each explosion will do 10 damage. So, you know, not too powerful of an explosion there, but 30 extra damage can do a lot, especially with a shotgun that's already this strong, you know? Sentinel Pump is already a good weapon, and if you just add extra 30 damage onto it, as well as like explosive radius, you know, explosive slash damage, I think this would be a very good weapon. I think it would be like a top tier exotic weapon. Might be a little bit too powerful, but who knows? The explosive mammoth pistol is not too crazy, so we'll see. We'll see how good this weapon would actually be. Next, we have the Lawless Lock-On SMG. When you shoot this weapon at your opponent, the bullets you shoot have a 35% chance to lock onto your target and guarantee damage. So basically, around a third of the time, you just get aimbot, essentially. So you could just be shooting in the general area, and like around a third of your shots would be aimbot, basically. This would be an exotic version of the Veiled Precision SMG. So if you're looking at a Veiled Precision SMG, essentially you get 21 shots per clip. So basically 7% of your shots are like always guaranteed to hit as long as you're looking in the direction of your opponent. So it's just basically the Veiled Precision SMG, but you're guaranteed damage. So you could like unload a whole clip, and instead of maybe missing every single shot, you get like 7 off. So I think it would be solid. I think this would be a good weapon, obviously. Maybe a bit too broken again, but who knows? Who really knows? Next, we have the Lawless Inferno SMG. This is an exotic version of the Surgefire SMG. I don't know why it says Veiled Precision SMG on the bottom, but just ignore that. It's a Surgefire SMG. And this says, when you empty the clip of the Lawless Inferno SMG, a small fiery explosion goes off, lighting nearby structures on fire. So basically, it's just like a little gas can when you empty the clip. So that last shot goes off, boom, little fire explosion. Now everything's on fire. I feel like this weapon would be a little bit annoying to fight against because obviously the whole gimmick is that it shoots faster the longer you hold it. So it might be a little bit annoying to fight against, but who knows? Who really knows? Could be interesting to see. Next, we have the Lawless Gilded Pistol. This is an exotic version of the Suppressed Pistol, the second exotic suppressed pistol, and basically when you damage an opponent with the Lawless Gilded Pistol, you'll get the Gold Rush effect. And additionally, this is a second level bonus effect. When you eliminate an opponent with the Lawless Gilded Pistol, they will drop extra gold. So, you know, the whole gold thing with this weapon, pretty solid. I think this would be a definite improvement on the suppressed pistol. I mean, you're basically getting better movement. So basically you hit someone and you can just rush them immediately. So easy way to close the distance, and extra gold is always nice. Not really too needed in this season, but you know, could be fun nonetheless. Next, we have the Lawless Icy Burst Rifle. This is obviously an exotic version of the Striker Burst Rifle, and when you damage an opponent with the Lawless Icy Burst Rifle, your opponent will gain the Icy Feet effect. So basically, this will just disorient whoever you're fighting against. The Icy Feet effect in itself isn't bad. It isn't really a disadvantage, but if someone just gets it out of nowhere, building is going to be basically impossible. It's going to be really difficult. You can't build ramps. You can really only box yourself in at that point, so a little bit annoying. And yeah, I feel like this would just cause a little bit of a hindrance to your opponent. Next, we have the Lawless Siphon Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Fury Assault Rifle, not currently in the game, but who cares? Who really cares? When you damage an opponent with the Lawless Siphon Rifle, you will gain a small amount of health and shield. Basically Deadpool's pistols from Chapter 2 Season 2, but on the Fury Assault Rifle instead. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit of siphon, you know? Nothing too crazy. Next, we have the Lawless Fireball Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Oni shotgun, and this one's a bit interesting. This shotgun shoots once before having to reload, so doesn't shoot twice, not a double barrel like the regular Oni shotgun, more like a ranger shotgun. And it takes 2 pellets every shot, so kind of like the twin fire. When you shoot this weapon, it will shoot a fireball similar to the fire Oni mask that will track down the target that this weapon was aimed at. So basically, it's a fire mask that has infinite uses as long as you can find shotgun ammo. That's basically what this is. I think this would be a solid weapon. I don't know if it would be really that crazy, but seems fun, you know? Next, we have the Lawless Impulse Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Outlaw Shotgun, and when you damage an opponent with the Lawless Impulse Shotgun, your opponent will be knocked back as if they were hit by an impulse grenade, meaning they will take fall damage if they fall far enough. So, this is kind of like the Dub Shotgun, but strictly a negative for your opponent. So when you hit someone with the Dub Shotgun, it would knock them back, but I don't think it would cause them fall damage, and it would also knock you back. But this just knocks your opponent back, and it guarantees fall damage as long as they're falling far enough. So could be solid. Might have the same problem as the Dub, where you knock them back far enough and the shotgun doesn't really work. So it's really a bit situational, but I think it'd be fun, you know? I think it'd be interesting in fights where you're like on top of like a mountain or something, and then you shoot them, and then boom, they're dead, you know? Could be fun. Who knows? Next, we have the Lawless Shadow Drum Gun. This is obviously an exotic drum gun, and when you eliminate an opponent with the Lawless Shadow Drum Gun, you will be granted the Shadow Bomb effect for a short period of time. So, it will just be a nice way to get some movement. Maybe if you're getting third party, this would help you out a little bit, you know? Could be fun, could be interesting, and, you know, the drum gun, the Midas drum gun that's in the game right now is actually really solid, so maybe this one will be good too. Who knows? Alright, so kicking off this video, we have the first new exotic weapon here. We have the Lawless Plasma Railgun. So while charging up the Lawless Plasma Railgun, the laser will act similarly to the laser from a plasma burst laser, dealing constant damage with a small explosion every few seconds. Obviously an exotic version of the railgun, and yeah, basically it just makes the railgun do extra damage, essentially. It'll act the same as normal railgun, except that laser part. Just, it gives the railgun bonus damage, basically, which solid addition in my opinion. You know, when thinking about what an exotic railgun could do, this was pretty obvious. We take a laser weapon and then give it the effect of a different laser weapon. Seems pretty easy, seems pretty obvious in my opinion, you know? And I feel like this would just be a better version of the plasma burst laser already, because this weapon's a sniper and the plasma burst laser has horrible range. Like, it literally like cuts off after a little bit, which kind of sucks. So basically having that effect with infinite range, because that's a sniper, would be nice. It would be nice. Be an improvement on the plasma burst laser, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Lawless Blizzard Launcher. The Lawless Blizzard Launcher would shoot blizzard grenades instead of normal explosive rockets, creating small blizzards that deal constant damage and slow down your opponents. Obviously, an exotic version of the quad launcher, and if you don't remember what the blizzard grenades were, those are like the chiller grenades that were from the last Winterfest, so the Chapter 6 Winterfest, and they were interesting to say the least. I don't know how good they really were, but I feel like this would be an interesting effect for an exotic weapon. You know, kind of parallels the Big Chill, which is a snowball launcher that shoots chiller grenades. This would be a quad launcher that shoots blizzard grenades. So both versions of the chiller grenade have their own like launcher weapon now, which I think it's be pretty interesting. I don't know how good this weapon would actually be, but you know, it's worth trying out. Also, this would be the second exotic quad launcher, so it doesn't really need to have a truly amazing weapon already, because it already has an exotic version. So this would just be a fun addition. Next up, we have the Lawless Chain Repeater Rifle, and this one I think would be a bit broken, but you guys will just have to let me know what you think. The Lawless Chain Repeater Rifle will create chain explosives for every enemy hit by the initial explosion of the weapon. The initial explosive is as strong as it normally is, however, the chain explosives will do half the damage. So basically that first explosion does, I don't know how much it does like off the top of my head, like I think it does like 90 damage total. I could be wrong about that, but it would do that, and then every like chain explosion it creates would do 45 after that. So you would hit the first person with it, and if they're close enough to another person and that explosion would hit them too, it would create another explosion. So the first explosion does 90, and then for every person that it hits, it would do an additional explosion for 45. So this weapon might be a bit broken, definitely very strong in like squads or something like that. It'll also be very good for taking out henchmen, because you could like hit a bunch of them at the same time. So this weapon would be kind of broken in my opinion. I think this would probably be the most broken exotic we'd have, and yeah, just very interesting idea for a weapon here, in my personal opinion. Next, we have the Lawless Multi-Shot Minigun. Now, the Lawless Multi-Shot Minigun will shoot 3 bullets simultaneously, similar to a shotgun, every time it fires. Each shot still only takes 1 bullet, and each bullet also has reduced damage to account for the 2 additional bullets it fires. Obviously, an exotic version of the minigun, and basically an easy way to think about this is, think about a minigun, but every shot it fires is a shotgun shot. So, yeah, I can imagine how strong this weapon would be. As I said, the bullets would do less damage. Each bullet would do less damage because it would shoot 3 at the same time. So it's not like you're getting like 60 damage per shot. But I think at like maybe 30 damage per shot might be still really good. But each bullet's only doing like 10 damage. So, you know, you get 60 shots of 30 damage each split across 3 bullets. So, you know, solid weapon, I think. I think this would be pretty powerful. It's sort of similar to the Trinity Assault Rifle, except it's not like an ammo depleter, you know, like that weapon is. So, yeah, pretty good in my opinion. I think this would be a really solid weapon. Might even be better than the Mythic minigun. Who knows? I just think it could be better than that, in my opinion. You know, could be a really solid weapon. Next, we have the Lawless Thermite Flare Gun. When the Lawless Thermite Flare Gun's projectile explodes on a surface, it will spawn a thermite on whatever it explodes on. Obviously, an exotic version of the flare gun. And obviously a thermite, you know, it's what you throw in the vaults. It has like this, like, is it really an explosion? I don't really know, but it creates like an area of like fire that like damages anyone who's in that like area, like fire zone. And basically this weapon would create that on the ground when it explodes. You can't create a thermite when it explodes in the air. So if you're shooting it up to get like recon or something, it's not going to spawn a thermite in the air, you know what I mean? But if you shoot it at like someone's builds, thermite will spawn. So I think that would be pretty solid. I don't know how effective it would be. This weapon would probably be like similar. This weapon would probably still be used in the same way that the normal flare gun is used, in my opinion, because the effect is sort of similar to what it already kind of does. But, you know, maybe, you know, if you're going for like a second vault, you could shoot this and, you know, you don't have to carry thermite around, and plus you get recon. So pretty good. And again, the thermite could also be really good for just destroying builds. As we did have the fire effect on the last flare gun, but this one, you know, thermite effect, would be probably better because you could also like really effectively destroy metal and brick, which fire can't really do because it only like does that to wood. So, you know, pretty good effect in my opinion. All right, this one is a bit interesting. This is the Lawless Storm Burst Laser. When the Lawless Storm Burst Laser explodes, instead of making a tiny explosion, it will create a mini storm flip that always ticks for 10, no matter how much the actual storm is currently ticking for. This is obviously an exotic plasma burst laser, and yeah, this effect might be a little bit broken, a little bit annoying, but seems fun. And plus there's only one on the map, so, you know, don't have to worry about it too much. But this weapon might be a bit broken. You know, obviously creating a mini storm flip would always be crazy. You could also use this to like survive storm a little bit longer, because obviously storm flip flips the storm. So if you're in the storm, you shoot this, it'll create like a air bubble for you to breathe in, so you can actually like not take storm damage in the storm. So that would be pretty solid. And then obviously the storm storm flip effect out of the storm would be pretty good for people who are just like camping in boxes, you know. So you just shoot this at their box, creates a storm flip, and then that you basically have to move it. They are forced to rotate, so kind of disorients the opponent. So I think it's pretty solid, you know, pretty solid utility item in my opinion. I don't know how effective it would be for like actually killing someone, but as like a utility item, I think it would be pretty solid, you know. All right, this one, it's simple, but I think it'll be really good. This is the Lawless Rush Kneecapper. When sprinting with the Lawless Rush Kneecapper, you will be granted the Gold Rush effect until you are no longer sprinting. Obviously an exotic version of the Kneecapper, and basically this is just really good. This is just a Kneecapper, but you get the Gold Rush effect every time you use it. Basically a Kneecapper, but better in literally every single way. Like faster all the time. The Gold Rush effect, I believe, actually no, it doesn't knock back opponents. That's the medallion I'm getting confused with, but it's still really solid. And also you can combine this with the medallion to have like really fast movement speed, you know. Just really solid weapon here, you know. I'm also really happy with how the design kind of came out, because the kind of orange lightning around it, I know I'm not really talking about like the aesthetic of these weapons a lot, but the orange lightning around that looks really cool. But yeah, I think this would probably be the best like exotic. Like this would be like a must carry in like every game in my opinion. I just think it'd be really solid, you know. It's just the best movement item easily, you know, my personal opinion. All right, this is probably the most out there idea for a weapon I have in this video. This will be the Lawless Jungle Mag AR. When reloading the Lawless Jungle Mag AR, a random jungle plant between the Bomb Flower, Slurp Plant, and Stink Flower will be applied to the weapon. When you fire the last shot in each clip, that plant's effect will occur. So basically, take it like this. Sort of thing about like the exotic unstable bow, where you shoot it and like it switches between each plant. So basically think about it like this. You reload it and it has the bomb flower effect, alright? So you shoot it, you empty the clip, and when that last shot is fired, an explosion happens because the bomb flower explodes. Then you reload it, slurp plant effect. When you shoot the last shot, a slurp plant like explodes and heals whatever. So it could be a good way to heal yourself. So if you get that slurp plant effect, free heals. And then you reload it again and the stink flower effect. So you shoot at someone's box, you know, last shot goes off, now they have a stink bomb on their box, and they have to rotate. It's essentially a 3-in-1. However, I feel like the usefulness of this weapon is a bit iffy, given the slurp plant might not be what everyone is looking for in a weapon. However, you could just shoot it and then say the last shot and then just shoot it at the floor and then get some heals. So, you know, maybe it wouldn't be too big of a hindrance, but I feel like the usefulness of the weapon might be a bit questionable. But I think it's a fun idea. I think it's a fun gimmick, you know, and I think it'd just be a fun weapon overall, in my personal opinion. All right. Next, we have the Lawless Crypto Shotgun. Now, this weapon is very interesting on how it would actually work. The Lawless Crypto Shotgun does extra damage for how much gold and how many dill bits you have. It starts at a base of 30 body shot and 45 headshot if you have no gold or dill bits, and each each dill bit grants 20 more damage, and every 500 gold adds 10 damage. So think about it like this. So you have 5,000 gold, that is 100 damage right there, added on to it because 5,000 divided by 500 is 10, and then 10 times 10, 100 damage. So you have 30 body shot, now you have 130 because you're adding 100 onto that. Then you have 3 dill bits because you get the 2 from the vault, and then you go to the black market and get the one from the black market chest. 3 dill bits right there. And now you have a total of 190 body shot. This weapon could really pack a punch in my personal opinion. In the headshot, it could one-shot headshot if you're like fully stacked out. So, you know, this weapon might be a bit broken, but you do have to have dill bits, so you can't really spend any of your dill bits on any other exotic if you want to keep that ability. So, you know, if you don't have any dill bits, it kind of caps out at 130. Kind of just has normal, like, infiltrator pump damage. Might be a bit higher. I think it's a bit higher. But having dill bits on you, really solid. Really solid. Basically makes the weapon the best shotgun ever. But it requires you to hold on to those dill bits and not spend them, which might not be what you want to do. So it makes you think. Obviously, an exotic version of the infiltrator pump shotgun, and yeah, this might be like the most actually good weapon on this list. So could be interesting to see, you know. And then finally, just a nice little simple weapon here to close out the video. We have the Lawless Guzzle Burst SMG. When you eliminate an opponent with the Lawless Guzzle Burst SMG, you'll be granted the Guzzle Healing effect, and it will stop once you've been healed to full white health or have been damaged. Obviously, it just applies the Guzzle Juice effect to you, which is an item I'm surprised you haven't seen any more of. It was like in one season of Chapter 3 and then completely forgotten. I think it might have came back last season or sometime in Chapter 5. If I remember, it came back at one point. Might have been in Reload too. I have no idea, but it came back at one point. So it's just the item hasn't been in the game that much. That would be interesting to see have its effect applied to another weapon. So Lawless Guzzle Burst SMG is obviously an exotic scope burst SMG, but yeah, that's the last weapon I have for this video. Alright, kicking us off, we have the Lawless Gold Rush Juice. This is obviously an exotic version of Slurp Juice, and the Lawless Gold Rush Slurp Juice works identically to the legendary Slurp Juice. Also grants the Gold Rush effect after being used. The Lawless Gold Rush Juice has 3 uses, so this would probably be a really strong item. I feel like it would be either carrying this or the Slap Jug for what item you should probably, like, what healing item you should probably carry. I feel like this would be really powerful, but the 3 uses kind of limits it a little bit because only one of these on the map and you can only use it 3 times. Whereas with the legendary Slurp Juice, there was a lot more than 3, so you could just replenish anytime you went low on them. So I feel like this would be a lot more balanced, even though it's just a better version because of the limitation on it. So especially since there wouldn't be any normal Slurp Juice because there isn't normal Slurp Juice in the game right now. So this would be a good item in my opinion, but I don't think it would be too broken just because of there only being one on the map. Next, we have the Lawless Slurp Grenade, another healing item. I promise this video is not going to be just healing items. There will be a few, but it's not just going to be healing items. This is an exotic version of the grenade, and when the Lawless Slurp Grenade explodes, it will heal everyone in its radius for 100 health or shield, prioritizing health like other Slurp items, and this item has infinite uses, but has a 60-second cooldown. So, if you've ever played Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, I believe it is, you know that the scientist has this ability where he throws on like a heal bomb and it just heals like all his teammates. This would basically be that item, but it would heal everyone, not just you, so you'd have to make sure only you and your team is in the radius, which shouldn't be too hard. You know, if you're just in a box, boom, everyone's healed up. Infinite uses makes this a good healing item. I don't know if it would be like the best just because the other ones don't have to worry about cooldown, but this one has infinite uses, so maybe, but you could only use one before you like have to, you know, have cooldown, and also the charge up time of the grenade. So I feel like this might be a situational healing item, but it would still probably be good. Like if you carry this, like you're still gonna be able to like work with it, you know. I think it'd be a solid item, you know, but I don't know how crazy it would be, you know. All right, I did say there wasn't going to be any more healing items. Well, I didn't say that, but I said it's not going to be healing items, and this is the first non-healing item of the video. This is the Lawless Homing Clinger. So the Lawless Homing Clinger is obviously an exotic version of the Clinger, and it will lock onto the opponent it's thrown at. However, it only deals 60 damage to account for the auto aim, and it only has 5 uses. So basically, you pick it out of one of the black markets, you get 5 of these, and once you use them all, you're out, you're done for. So, it's solid. The auto aim is obviously gonna be a bit broken. Obviously, it has reduced damage to account for that, because if you could auto aim and it was already dealing the 100 damage, that's a bit broken. But 60 damage feels a bit more balanced, since you need to throw 4, I believe, in order to kill someone. 5, I believe, in 0 build to kill someone. So basically, to kill one person, you have to use all 5 of these in 0 build. So it's a bit broken, but it's not overpowered, because the less damage balances a little bit more. So I feel like it's a solid item. I don't feel like it's the best item I'm going to show you in this video, but not bad. If you use this, you could definitely get away with it, maybe get a kill, 1 kill or 2, but it's not going to be a defining weapon in your loadout, Alright, this might be the weirdest item in this video, but this is the Lawless Thermal Keg. This is an exotic version of the Shield Keg, obviously, as you can tell, and the Lawless Thermal Keg works just like its regular counterpart. However, it lasts for twice as long and grants thermal vision to anyone in its radius. And the thermal vision would resemble the thermal sight of the Midas Gilded Eye drum gun. The Lawless Thermal Keg also has 2 uses, so you throw down 2 times, and then it's done. So, basically, the normal Shield Keg heals 150 shield. This one would heal 300, and you get the thermal vision. And the thermal sight on the Gilded Eye drum gun is really good. I like the gold kind of aesthetic to it, so I thought this would be a good way to have the thermal vision look, And plus, it makes sense. It's a Lawless. It's got the gold outline, It looks like that would be the kind of thermal vision it would get off. So the thermal vision might not be the reason people carry this item. It might just be the 300 shield. But I still think it'd be a solid item. And thermal vision is a nice little bonus. Obviously, an exotic has to have a little bit of a twist on it, so could be solid, but I don't know how good it would actually be in terms of utility. Healing, it would definitely be pretty solid, especially in team modes. Pretty good, but I don't know if you want to waste a dilbit on it though. That's the only thing. Alright, this one might be a little bit broken. This is the Lawless Gravity Boombox. This is obviously an exotic version of the Boombox. Guaranteed 90% of you forgot that the Boombox was even an item in this game. But the Lawless Gravity Boombox acts just like its normal counterpart. However, it will also create a low gravity bubble in its radius. So basically, in its radius, it'll destroy all the builds like normal, and then the low gravity effect will also happen, so everyone's jumping around. It's kind of crazy, It would probably be good because the boombox was a pretty solid item, but I just don't know if the low gravity effect will be that useful. I think it'd be fun, Maybe if you throw this down, you save yourself from fall damage, maybe. Could be an interesting way to use this item. But, I don't know how effective the low gravity would be. I feel like it's a bit situational, but, it's fun. It's a nice little gimmick on this item, and yeah, I just think it'd be really solid, Just a nice little gimmick to a pretty strong item already, Pretty fun. Alright, we have another healing item. We have the Lawless Spicy Smoke Grenade. This is an exotic version of the Medmist Smoke Grenade, and the Lawless Spicy Smoke Grenade acts really similarly to its normal counterpart. However, it also heals shields and grants the Spicy Pepper effect while in the smoke. So basically, the normal Medmist Smoke Grenade only heals white health, but this would also heal shield, similar to a Slurp Juice, how it heals both white and blue health and shield, I should say. So, it would be pretty good for that. And the Spicy Pepper effect just makes you more versatile while in the smoke. I feel like it would last for a few seconds afterwards, but it wouldn't be too much, Just a nice way to be more versatile, so if someone's in the smoke with you, it's a bit harder to hit you, Just basically a better version of the Medmist Smoke Grenade in every way possible, I just think it would be a good addition, Just think it would be a fun item. Nothing too crazy, but it could definitely be useful. The healing might be the best part of it, though. I feel like a lot of these healing items, the healing is what you want from it. The secondary effect's just there. It could help you, but it's also not why you're going for the item. Most of these healing items are very situational in terms of their utility. The healing is really good on them, but the utility side of it depends on what situation you're in, I don't feel like that applies to this next healing item, though. This is the Lawless Slap Spray. This is obviously an exotic version of the Medmist, and the Lawless Slap Spray acts similarly to its normal counterpart. However, it also heals shields as well, just like the Smoke Grenade, as a shield as well. And it also grants the user the Slap Effect, sort of like the Slap Jug and the Slap Cannon, Slap Effect heals you. And the Lawless Slap Spray also has 500 uses, so the normal Medmist has 150, and this one would have 500, so you'd get a lot more health out of it, I feel like this is a better version of the Slap Jug, almost, because it's got the same effect and it has more uses. It does take longer to heal, I believe, because obviously the Slap Jug heals in ticks of 10 and this heals in ticks of 5, but it also has more health, 100 more health to be specific. So I feel like, it's really just a bit debatable. Like, yes, it has more, but it also takes longer to get that health off. So if you're in like a really tight situation, you might want to go with the slap jug, but this one's not bad either. Also, it's an exotic, so it might not spawn every game because that's how they work right now because they're randomized. So it'll just kind of depend on what you get in your game. But I feel like this could be a solid item, you know? Basically the slap jug, but with a little bit of a trade-off, you know? So, be pretty good in my opinion. Alright, this is a really unique exotic in my opinion. This is the Lawless Slow-Mo Scanner. This is an exotic version of the Pulse Scanner, and the Lawless Slow-Mo Scanner works similarly to its normal counterpart. However, every player in AI in its radius also has their movement speed, pickaxe swing speed, and build speed halved. So basically what that means is it's basically puts everyone in slow-mo in the radius. So not only do you get a scan of everyone in that radius so you know where they are, they're slowed. I also want to mention this does also apply to you, so if you're on the radius, you will be slow, but everyone else will be too, so, you know, and plus you have the mark, so you have like a bit of an advantage. I feel like this would be really good if you like throw this down into like a crowded area and you're not in the radius and everyone's slowed, their build speed's slow, so you just like spray in at them. And like they can't really do much about it because, you know, they don't have really effective turbo building because speed's slow. So you could just spray them down and get a few easy kills. It'd be fun. But yeah, I feel like this would be a really unique item. And I believe that this is also based off of a unreleased item like way back in the day. There was like an unreleased like slow-mo bomb like thing. You would throw it down and then you like, it was either that, you throw it down or you consume it, it would put you in slow-mo. I don't know how useful that would be, but, you know, who knows. I feel like this would be a very useful item because of the recon ability paired with the slow-mo, so it's really effective. I think the utility on this item is top tier, in my opinion. Now, this one is a bit of a gimmicky item, but I feel like it's fun. This is the Lawless Port of Mystery. So I'm guessing you can get what the gimmick here is. This is an exotic version of the Portafort, and when you throw the Lawless Port of Mystery, it will spawn a random build between either the Portafort, Portafortress, or the Portabunker. So basically, this is basically like Portafort roulette. Which Portafort you get? I deliberately decided to not include the porta cover because the porta cover is kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorry, I swore, I know, crazy, but it's not good. It's not that good, especially when the porta bunker is still in the game. I don't believe the porta bunker is in builds, but it's in 0 builds, and there's no reason to use a porta cover in builds mode anyway, so you're not really picking up there. And the porta bunkers are so much better than the porta cover. Honestly, I don't know, like the rarity on them don't make sense to me, because the porta bunkers are green, an uncommon item, but the porta cover is a rare item, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, especially when the porta bunker is so much better in every way. I feel like the porta cover should be a common, but who cares about that right now. This item probably won't be the most useful because you kind of want to know what you're placing down before you throw it, but you know, it might be fun, might be a good way to get some like clips, good content item, you know. And yeah, also I just want to mention, I haven't been mentioning the designs on these, but I really like the design on this one. It's got like the question mark. I feel like I did a good job on this one, in my opinion. I'm just saying, you know, I think it was pretty good. Alright, and this is the last item of the video. This is the Lawless Zero Splashes. This is an exotic version of the Slap Splashes, and the Lawless Zero Slap Splashes work just like their regular counterpart, granting 15 health or shield and the slap effect. However, they also grant the 0-point dash effect for a few seconds after being hit with one. So, you know that effect where you can like dash like after you like using like the exotic pump and dump, or the exotic twin mag, or kind of like the Cerberus medallion dashes or the Godzilla dashes? That's what this would give you after you use it. So I think this would be pretty good for rotation, especially when you could sprint with the slap effect while also dashing, because I feel like when you're dashing and sprinting at the same time, it's really good mobility. So I feel like this would be a pretty strong item. Healing might not be the reason people take this one. All the other healing items in this video, like the healing was the main reason because it's like basically doubled, but this one's just a normal slap splash with the 0-point dash effect. So I think the 0-point dash effect is why people take this. So this is more of like a utility item than the other healing items, you know? The utility effect is like the main purpose. It's not just like a little gimmick added on just because, you know? So I feel like this one could be a bit fun, you know? Seems pretty good. So, kicking it off, we have the Lawless Impulse Rocket Drill. So, when attacking with the Lawless Impulse Rocket Drill, your opponent will be knocked back as if they had been hit with an impulse grenade. This is obviously an exotic rocket drill, and this might be a little counterintuitive considering the attack for the rocket drill is a melee attack, but the impulse effect means that you're guaranteed to get fall damage with it as well. So using this at any sort of high point will guarantee you get the kill because of fall damage. Unless you're carrying something that prevents fall damage, like I think the kneecapper does it, but I think you have to be sprinting with it first. And obviously the rocket drill counters it, because you could just like use the rocket drill's like movement ability, but if they don't have one of those items, they are basically screwed. They are dead, you know? So, you know, it could be an interesting item. I just don't know how intuitive it would be or how useful it would be. Next up, we have the Lawless Nitro Assault Rifle. So while holding the Lawless Nitro Assault Rifle, you are granted the Nitro effect permanently, sort of like the running gun SMG from Chapter 4. This weapon also has a faster reload time than its regular counterpart and has a hollow optic scope, so has the same scope as the Hollow Twister. This is an exotic version of the combat assault rifle, and it's fitting considering that was like the main AR during Chapter 5 Season 3, So I think it's fitting that this has like the Nitro effect. Might be a bit busted considering Nitro is a bit of a busted effect, but it's fun, Why not have something like this in the game, Could be cool. Other than that, it's just a normal combat assault rifle. Next, we have the Lawless Cluster Rocket Launcher. Now, this is an exotic version of the Anvil Rocket Launcher, and when the rocket from the Lawless Cluster Rocket Launcher explodes, it will create a bunch of cluster bombs that will explode in the nearby radius. So, kind of the same idea as the Anvil Rocket Launcher originally, but I think this might do an even better job at getting its effect across because of the cluster bomb effect, Think about it sort of like the cluster clingers. That's how it kind of works. This might be a very solid way to make the Anvil Rocket Launcher an actual viable weapon. Because right now it's like, that's fine. But if you have this cluster effect, it'll make getting out of the way of this thing a lot harder because of the explosion radius. So who knows, maybe this could be an actual good version of the weapon, Could be interesting. Could be an interesting way to spice this weapon up a little bit. But other than that, I don't think this is anything too crazy. In terms of viability, maybe it could be good, but who knows. The vehicle effect I feel like would be pretty nice because the cluster explosions just basically insta-kill the vehicle. Or it does so much damage to them that this is basically an insta-kill, But maybe it would be good. I don't really know. It'd have to be in-game for me to see if it would actually be good or not. Next we have the Lawless Thunderbolt Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Thunder Shotgun, as you could probably tell by the name. And instead of shooting a normal shotgun blast, the Lawless Thunderbolt Shotgun will shoot out a Zeus's Thunderbolt instead. It will have a mag size of 4 and take 2 shells per shot. So normal, but just like half the mag size. Obviously to prevent people from spamming an explosive, that'd be kind of annoying. But yeah, this is like an interesting idea. If you saw my first exotic video where I had the Fire Oni shotgun that shot the fireballs, this is kind of like that idea, but instead of fireballs, it's the thunderbolts. So, I think it would be kind of fun, another kind of gimmicky weapon, but it could be cool, could be useful too, considering it's basically an explosion. So, it could be cool. Could be really cool in my opinion. Might be a bit gimmicky though. Next, we have the Lawless Firehound Assault Rifle, and you're going to see a theme with these Firehound weapons, When you fire the last shot in the clip of the Lawless Firehound Assault Rifle, a fire will ignite, setting all structures nearby on fire. This is an exotic version of the MK7, and yeah, it's just the normal MK7, but sets fire on the last shot, so, could be pretty good, Obviously, fire is going to negatively affect your opponent, but, can't really get away with spraying this in a box, because then you're going to set yourself on fire too, so, it's a little bit situational, but it's still overall pretty solid weapon, in my opinion. Next, we have the Lawless Quad Shotgun. This is an interesting weapon. This is an exotic version of the Charged Shotgun, and with a clip size of 4, the Lawless Quad Shotgun will shoot a quick burst of shots depending on how long you charge it up for. Instantly firing will only shoot 1 shot, but charging it fully will fire 4 shots in quick succession. So kind of think about it like you charge it up just a little bit, or not at all, goes bam, normal charge shotgun kind of stuff. But if you fully charge it up, then you let those go bam, 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 and it empties out the whole clip like that. Could be a pretty solid weapon, Would it be better than the normal charge shotgun? I don't know, but I think it'd be interesting. Kind of got that double bump effect, So who knows? It could be really good. Alright, next we have the Lawless Nitro Fish. This is an exotic version of the Slurp Fish. This is probably the most interesting item here in this list. With infinite uses and 2 charges before it has to go on cooldown for 60 seconds, the Lawless Nitro Fish will heal for 50 health or shield, and also grant the user the Nitro effect for a short period of time. So this is just a better version of the Slurp Fish in every way. Infinite uses, more health, and the Nitro effect, there's no downside to this, It would instantly become the best healing item in the loot pool, in my opinion. There is no topping this. So yeah, I think this would probably be the best exotic in the loot pool if this were actually added to the game, because it's a no downsides kind of weapon, which, for an exotic with only 1 on the map, I think is fine, but it might be a bit broken on competitive modes, because of heal offs. But then again, it has a 60-second cooldown, so get those really late ticks, you're not going to be lasting long with this thing. But just the idea of infinite heals is really good. Alright, as I said, there's going to be more Firehound weapons, and this is the next one. This is the Lawless Firehound Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the classic pump shotgun, and when shooting the Lawless Firehound Shotgun, an explosion of fire will go off, dealing bonus damage and setting nearby structures on fire. So basically, this is the Dragon's Breath shotgun if it was more like a pump. That's basically what this weapon is. So, nothing crazy, nothing revolutionary, but it's kind of a fun idea. Dragon's Breath shotgun, but if it was actually good, Fun idea. This might be a bit of a problem because of boxes being set on fire, but as long as you're not building out of wood, this is just a normal pump. So, who knows how good this thing would actually be in game. you know? Alright, we have one more Firehound weapon, and this will be the last Firehound weapon of the video, but this is not the last weapon, so stay tuned, because there's one more weapon after this that I think is really cool. This is the Lawless Firehound pistol, and when shooting the Lawless Firehound pistol, any structure hit by its bullets will go up in flames. This weapon also has the downside of dealing a little bit of damage to the user after eliminating another player, so kind of balance it out a little bit. This is an exotic version of the combat pistol, and I just think this would be a bit broken, but I think it'd be fun, you know? I think exotic weapons are best when they're a little bit broken, but, you know, they're still fun, you know, because they're only limited to one per match. At least how they are currently, it's limited to one per match, you know? So I think this would be a fun idea to introduce like this fire aspect back in the game, because fire hasn't been in the game for a little while, so it could be an interesting way to bring it back. And also combine it with like all the other fire weapons that are in this video. Could be fun, you know? And the final weapon of the video, we have the Lawless Gambler Assault Rifle. Now, this is an exotic version of the Heavy Assault Rifle, but it really has nothing in common with the Heavy Assault Rifle, because when shooting the Lawless Gambler Assault Rifle, this weapon has a chance to shoot out a random projectile from any other weapon in the game. This weapon also has a very slow fire rate for an assault rifle, so kind of balance it out a little bit, because in case you get like 3 rockets in a row, you can't just spam them. So, you know, this weapon is fun, very inconsistent. It's kind of like the Unstable Bow, but like take it to the extreme, you know? I think this weapon would be really fun, but I don't know how good it would be, just because you'd have to rely on random chance to get it to work. So, who knows? But I think this would be a fun weapon, you know? Random chance, you know? Sort of like the Porta mystery item from my last exotic video. You should go watch that to see that one. But this one could be an interesting weapon. Who knows? I think this would be good. Alright, kicking things off, we have the Lawless Slurp Sniper Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Reaper Sniper Rifle, and when you eliminate an opponent with the Lawless Slurp Sniper Rifle, your health begins to regenerate as if you had consumed a Slurp juice. The Slurp effect would last for 100 health or shield, so basically you just heal up 100 health or shield, and then the Slurp would go away. So this would just basically be a Reaper Sniper Rifle with built-in Siphon, essentially. I believe Siphon currently works sort of like this in ranked or tournaments, I believe. I believe it's something like this. I think it's like 70 regenerating health or shield, something like that, which is kind of stupid for Siphon, but on a weapon like this, I think it'd be a little bit interesting. You know, you wouldn't really have to deal with third parties a lot, because this is a sniper, so you're really the one third party. So you pick off someone and be like, oh, nice, got a free kill, and I get a regen health, because you could have gotten out of a fight, and, you know, it's just some guy, like, quite far away. But you can still see him, so you shoot him, boom, health's back. So, could be an interesting weapon. I don't know if the slurp effect would be really, like, important to this weapon. I feel like people might just take it because it's a Reaper Sniper Rifle, but, you know, who knows? Who knows how this would really play out in, like, the actual game. Alright, next we have the Lawless Tracker Turret. This is an exotic version of the Business Turret, and when the Lawless Tracker Turret hits an opponent, it will mark them for a short period of time. Very simple item, just gives you a bit more information on where your opponent is. So let's say you throw this down like a building, like, maybe like Lone Wolf Lair. That's a very, like, cluttered kind of POI. It's very closed off, you know what I'm saying? It's like you throw it in there, it hits some people, and then now you can just see where they are at all times. So, could be useful in situations like that, but I don't know how useful this weapon would actually be. It feels a bit situational, in my personal opinion. Now, the original Business Turret is good, but I don't know if the marking will really make it any better, honestly, just given the way that you use it. But, you know, it's always nice to have a bit more intel, you know? So, maybe it'll be better. Who knows? Alright, now we have the Lawless Hop Rock Shotgun. When you fire the Lawless Hop Rock Shotgun, you will be granted the low gravity or the Hop Rock effect for a short period of time. This is an exotic version of the Combat Shotgun, and it's sort of like the Hop Rock Dualies. Shoot it, Hop Rock effect. So, you know, can't ever go wrong with that. It might be a little bit annoying to deal with if you're in like a build fight and then you Hop Rock, then you jump, and then you launch way farther than you wanted to go. Might be a bit annoying, but you know, for traversing, you know, just shoot this a bit and then you get some extra little push. You Shockwave, Hop Rock effect, you go flying. So, I thought this weapon would be pretty solid. And the Combat Shotgun, you know, nowadays it's kind of mid, but you know, maybe this could have some better stats, you know. Who knows? It is an exotic, so it would have some pretty decent stats for a combat shotgun. So, who knows? Maybe it could be a game changer, but I highly doubt it. I just think this weapon would just be like you get it, be like, oh cool, an exotic shotgun, I'll take it. But I don't think it would be like a game changer, you know? Next, we have the Lawless Knockback Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of just the normal assault rifle, the SCAR, you know, classic, good old OG SCAR. And when you hit an opponent with the Lawless Knockback Assault Rifle, your opponent will be knocked back a short distance. Very simple here. It just pushes your opponent away. And for a weapon that's actually meant to be used at range, this makes sense. Shotguns that have this effect, like the dub, don't make sense. A weapon that is meant to be used at range, knocking back your opponent, makes sense. I also envision this would work more like a impulse grenade than a shockwave grenade, so if you knock them off like a cliff, they'll take fall damage. So I think that would be pretty solid too. And overall, just having a SCAR that pushes people back, I think would be really good, you know, because it would actually have the knockback effect be useful instead of just knocking back your opponent when you have a shotgun, so your shotgun doesn't do any damage anymore. So I think it would be a very solid weapon. I think this would be a very good interpretation of the scar, in my personal opinion. Next, we have the Lawless Stygian shotgun. I believe that's how you say that word. And this is an exotic version of the Gatekeeper shotgun. And when you reload the Lawless Stygian shotgun, you'll be granted 3 skull dashes, as well as the Banana of the Gods effect. I don't know what the Banana of the Gods effect is actually called. I believe it has a name, but I could not find it. So if you know what it's called, let me know, please. But yeah, this is essentially just the Cerberus's Mythic Gatekeeper shotgun and the Cerberus medallion merged into one item. So this would obviously be very good, you know, because that was like really broken back when it was in chapter 5 season 2. So having a weapon that's basically just that but more condensed, very solid. This would probably be the best exotic in the loot pool if it was added today. So I think this would be a game changer. I think it would change with the meta, you know. And yeah, that's really about it. I think this is a solid weapon, you know, probably the best exotic in this video, I'd say, probably. Alright, next we have the Lawless Camo Hand Cannon. When you hit an opponent with the Lawless Camo Hand Cannon, you will be granted the invisibility effect for a brief period of time. This is obviously an exotic version of the hand cannon, and, you know, I don't know how useful this would be, but the invisibility could be useful. If you're like at range, you shoot them, and then they'd be like, oh, where'd that shot come from? They look back, they don't see you because you just hit them. So, you know, you're invisible. So you could run off a little bit, maybe shoot them again, who knows. And you'd actually be able to shoot while invisible with this weapon, so, you know, might make being invisible actually useful. So, who knows, that could be good. Then again, I don't really know how, like, useful this would be, like, outside of, like, that very niche situation, because it's just a hand cannon, and the hand cannon is just an alright weapon, you know, in its current form, so. It would probably be alright, it'd be a decent weapon, but I don't think people would be, like, clamoring to get this. I think if there's any other exotic in the black market, they'd probably take it over this. Honestly. Alright, next we have the Lawless Attractor Grappler. This is an interesting one. This is an exotic version of the Grappler, obviously, and when you hit an opponent with the Lawless Attractor Grappler, your opponent will be pulled towards you. This grappler has infinite uses. So basically, it's a normal grappler anytime you use it, but if you want to shoot it at your opponent, it will pull them towards you. So you basically shoot this at your opponent, brings them to you, and then you can like pull out your pump or whatever and go, bam, they're dead. So it could be fun. I think this would be like a very like good way to get clips, like a nice little clip weapon, like you pull them like bam, dead. Very fun. But practically, I don't know how useful this would be like in fights. Like as a grappler, it would be good because it's an infinite grappler. So, you know, you'd obviously want to take this. But the exotic effect of it seems a bit impractical. It just seems like a bit of fun. So, and that's really what exotics are supposed to be. They're supposed to be fun, gimmicky weapons. So I think it fits. But yeah, I think this would be a good item. I just don't know if the exotic effect is really too game changing. You know? Alright, next we have the Lawless Explosive Recon Grenade. This is an exotic version of the Recon Grenade from Ballistic. I know, kind of crazy having a Ballistic weapon exotic in here, but you know, we keep it different here. And when you throw down the Lawless Explosive Recon Grenade, it will mark any nearby players like a normal Recon Grenade does. And after a short period of time, the grenade will go off and blow up, just like a proximity mine. So, you know, you throw this down, you get a good intel on where your opponents are. It's like, nice, I know where they all are, they're all marked, I can see where they are. And then maybe if they're like in a box and you throw this, you know, you shoot at their cone or their floor, and then you have this go in their box. And then, you know, next thing they know, there's a grenade in their box and it's just marking them so that you're not like, oh, whatever, it's marking me, whatever. But the next thing you know, it goes off and then boom, it blows up and now you're down like half your shield. It's like, oh, really? Gotta be kidding me. So, it could be fun, could be a bit of an interesting weapon. I feel like recon grenades would need to be in the game in the first place in order for this to be a viable option, because if you throw this down and there's no recon grenades in the game, people are going to be like, oh, it's an explosive recon grenade, let me get out of here, else I'm going to blow up. So, you know, it could be useful, but I feel like its usefulness is really dependent on if there's normal recon grenades in the game. And considering normal recon grenades are a ballistic exclusive, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So, if this was added today, probably wouldn't be that great, but who knows? Maybe it would be like the best item in the loot pool. You never know, really, to be honest. Alright, now we have the Lawless Quad Burst Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Burst Assault Rifle, just the normal one, not the Striker Burst, so no red dot sight on this one. But when shooting the Lawless Quad Burst Assault Rifle, it will shoot in bursts of 4. Doing 25 damage per shot, and each mag will have 40 shots in it. So you get 40 shots before you have to reload, and you have 4 shots per burst, so you're essentially shooting 10 times. And if you hit all your shots, you get 100 damage. So 2 bursts worth of shots, your opponent's dead, unless you're in 0 build. Then you'd have to shoot another round. But that's besides the point. I think this would probably be a solid weapon. I don't know if it'd be too great because the normal burst is just kind of an alright weapon. So maybe if they like turned up the accuracy a little bit to be better, maybe it'd be good, but I don't really know. Maybe it'd be good for shooting through builds, because you like shoot through builds and then you have like 3 burst shots go through, and then now they're down 75 health. So maybe it could be good in that situation. I don't know. But, you know, just a nice little twist on an OG weapon. I think this would be a little bit of fun. Who knows? Could be good. Could be horrible. Who knows? But yeah. Quad burst assault rifle. And now for the last weapon in this video, we have the Lawless Magnet Burst SMG. This is an exotic Thunderburst SMG, and it's very similar to the Attractor Grappler, as you'll see in a second. When you hit an opponent with the Lawless Magnet Burst SMG, they will be pulled towards you. So just like the Attractor Grappler, it pulls your opponent towards you, you know? Very simple effect, but for a close range weapon, like an SMG, very effective, I think. And especially a Thunderburst SMG, because a Thunderburst is really solid if you have the right attachments on it. I don't know if it would have any attachments, considering this would be in Chapter 6 and there are no mod benches, so I don't know if it would have any attachments. Maybe it would, I don't know, but I haven't really thought about it that much. If I were to put attachments on it, I'd probably put a laser on it, and that's about it, I think. Just put a laser on it. But yeah, I think this would be a solid weapon. I think a lot of people would probably complain about this if it was actually in the game. I don't think it would be the best weapon I've showed off in this video, as I've said previously, you know? But yeah, I think this would be a solid weapon, and I think a lot of people would definitely complain about getting killed by this thing, you know? Who knows? Who really knows? It would have to be in the game for us to actually know. Alright, first we have the Lawless Breacher Pistol. This is an exotic version of the Monarch pistol, and whenever you shoot any structure with the Lawless Breacher Pistol, that structure is instantly destroyed. Now, this is essentially just what the hand cannon or the deagle used to be back when it was first added. A pistol that is slow firing but can destroy walls instantly, and you know, ideally this would not be nerfed into the ground like the heisted Breacher shotgun, which can't even destroy a fully built brick wall now, despite the whole gimmick being that it can destroy anything. I don't know why they decided to do that, but whatever. But yeah, I would hope that this would just stay as a instant break for any structure. Might be a bit busted, considering I believe the hip fire rate on the Monarch pistol, I should say, is a bit fast. But maybe it doesn't have that like insane structure damage when you're hip firing. Maybe it only has it when you're ADSing. So maybe that could be a way to balance it. But you know, I think this would be a solid weapon. Next up, we have the Lawless Triple Auto Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Frenzy Auto Shotgun, and when you fire the Lawless Triple Auto Shotgun, it will shoot in a burst of 3. Similar to the Burst Quad Launcher, each burst will only take 1 shotgun shell. So basically, this is a burst auto shotgun that has a lot of leeway with it. If you don't know, the Burst Quad Launcher shoots 8 rockets, but every 2 rockets only takes 1. So basically you're shooting bursts of 2 rockets, and it only takes one rocket out of your magazine, basically. So this would basically be the same thing, but instead of having 2 shots and only take 1, it's 3 shots and only takes 1. So I feel like this would be a really spammable shotgun, and you know, it might be a bit busted, but the Frenzy Auto was already busted, so this just makes an already busted weapon more busted. So what can you really do? But yeah, there's not much to this weapon. It's just a burst version of the Frenzy Auto shotgun. Alright, next we have the Lawless Flowberry shotgun, and when you reload a shell in the Lawless Flowberry shotgun, you'll gain the Flowberry effect for a short period of time. This is an exotic version of the Havoc Pump shotgun, so you know, this would probably already be a good weapon to start off with, and having the Flowberry effect would definitely be nice. You know, you just shoot this once, reload a shell into it, and boom, now you got a little bit of extra mobility, you know? It's just a nice little bonus to an already solid weapon. I don't see this becoming like a game changer. I just see it being like a solid option, you know? If you get this or you find it on the ground, you know, you'll be happy, you will take it. But you're not going out of your way to get this Flowberry effect because it's just a bonus. It's not the main attraction of the weapon. But I think it would be pretty good, all things considered. Next, we have the Lawless Tracker Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Tactical Assault Rifle, and when you hit an opponent with the Lawless Tracker Assault Rifle, your opponent will be marked for a short period of time. This is essentially the assault rifle version of the Shadow Tracker pistol. So basically, you shoot someone, they mark, or they get marked, I should say. Very simple, but a very effective weapon. If the Shadow Tracker is like a top tier pistol, this would probably be a top tier assault rifle. The TAC-AR on its own is just an alright gun. You know, the fact that it takes light ammo instead of medium ammo is definitely a benefit, and the red dot sight definitely helps it a bit now. And I would imagine this would still have the red dot sight, so, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about that too much. But I don't know how good it would be in like a loot pool like the current one, like the Chapter 6 Season 2 loot pool. I know like this is being uploaded like a day or two before the season ends, but you know, in a loot pool like Chapter 6 Season 2, this probably wouldn't be too crazy because all the other red dot weapons are just so much better. Even like the Veiled Precision SMG, I feel like is a bit better than the TAC-AR. So I don't know how good this would actually be, but having the mark effect definitely helps it in my personal opinion, especially when you're using this at farther ranges because of the scope. Next, we have a very interesting weapon. We have the Lawless Poison Dart Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Ranger Shotgun, and when you damage an opponent with the Lawless Poison Dart Shotgun, your opponent will begin taking poison damage for a short period of time. So basically, imagine this sort of like the poison dart trap. When someone gets hit with the poison darts from the poison dart trap, they begin taking tick damage for 10. Basically, that would be what this weapon does. I don't think it would do 10 damage per tick because this is a shotgun and you're already going to get like 100 damage-ish off of the first initial shot. So maybe it ticks like 3 times and you get like another 30 damage off of it that they can't do anything about. I feel like this would just be a solid twist on the Ranger shotgun. You know, it basically guarantees 30 damage every time you hit someone. Because, you know, sometimes you have some shots with shotguns that just kind of woof and only do like 30 damage anyways. So, you know, at least you're always getting alright damage with this weapon. And also, I feel like the range on the Ranger shotgun would be nice to have on a weapon like this. Because, you know, you shoot them and, you know, the poison dart trap, it is a bit more a ranged trap, but you have to be within 3 tiles of the trap. This has a lot more range than 3 tiles, so I feel like it'll be very solid. Alright, next we have the Lawless Dual Boom Hunters. This is an exotic version of the Dual Fiend Hunters. Very not good weapon, but when you fire the Lawless Dual Boom Hunters, it will shoot a mini boom bolt instead of a normal arrow. So basically, imagine the boom bolt, but dual wield. That's essentially what this weapon is. The explosion probably wouldn't be too strong, probably only do like 20-30 damage. You know, just having the ability to spam these, I just don't feel like the explosions should be too powerful, in my personal opinion. But I do think the explosions would help this weapon be a viable option, in my personal opinion. Alright, next we have the Lawless Flowberry Sniper Rifle, and this is an exotic version of the Bolt Action Sniper Rifle. And the gimmick to this one is very simple. While holding the Lawless Flowberry Sniper Rifle, you'll be granted the Flowberry effect indefinitely. Just a nice item for mobility, you know, and a good twist on the bolt, you know. Again, I don't think the Flowberry effect makes this a must carry. I just think it's a nice little bonus, you know. And obviously the bolt action is a solid sniper, so carrying this around would be nice. But yeah, just a very simple gimmick, you know, nothing too crazy with this weapon. Alright, we got a bit of a fun weapon here. We have the Lawless Boogie Bow. This is an exotic version of the mechanical bow, or you could just say any bow really, because it's just a bow with the boogie bomb effect. But yeah, when you fire a fully charged arrow from this bow, it will explode like a boogie bomb. Very simple gimmick here, but I feel like this is a weapon a lot of people have been like asking for a long time. I feel like whenever I see someone talk about like a new bow they like to see, like the top answer is probably always the boogie bomb bow, which, you know, kind of makes sense. It's an easy idea to come up with, you know, it's nothing crazy. So, you know, I think it would be an interesting addition. I don't know if this would be a really good idea because spammable boogie bomb's a bit powerful, so I don't know if this would be really a good idea, but who knows? Who knows? You do have to charge it up, so you can't just like throw it. So maybe it could be good. Who knows? Maybe it could be a nice balanced weapon. But I do feel like the balancing on this weapon is a bit hard, just because you basically have infinite of them, because, you know, you can just stock up on arrows, and you can carry like 13 arrows, which is more than double the amount of boogie bombs you can carry, so might be a bit of a problem, but who knows? Who really knows? Alright, next we have the Lawless Stormbolt. This is an exotic version of the Boom Bolt. I know, kind of crazy, like we have like 1,000 bows in this video. It's kind of weird. When you fire the Lawless Stormbolt, it will create a small storm flip for around 30 seconds. You know, nothing crazy, just a little mini storm flip, and yeah, I think it would be good, you know. I'd imagine that this would not have an explosion. I imagine you would just shoot it and the storm flip would pop out. The explosion will not happen. So basically, you tag them for a little bit of damage, the storm flip goes off, and now they're in the storm bubble, and that's where you get like, that's where the explosion damage would happen. Instead of getting it from the explosion, you would get it from the storm. I don't know if this would be better than the original Boom Bolt, I'm going to be honest, because people can just run away from the storm flip. So, might not be too crazy, but you know, maybe as a utility item, like if you're in storm, this would be a good way to, you know, survive storm for a little bit longer, you know? And maybe if like you're in like a late game and people are in their boxes, shoot this at their box and they like have not many places to go, I should say, because it's such a small circle. So, could be an interesting weapon in like those situations, but other than that, I don't see it being too crazy. And finally, to close it off, we have the Lawless Impulse Fire SMG. This is a very simple version of the Rapid Fire SMG, and when you hit an opponent with the Lawless Impulse Fire SMG, they will be knocked back a short distance. Essentially, This is basically like the dub, but impulse grenade instead of shockwave grenade effect, and you don't get knocked back with it, you know? A very simple weapon here, but could be fun. I don't know how effective it would be considering it's an SMG, and knocking back your opponents with an SMG, which is meant for close range, probably won't be the best option, but who knows? Maybe it'd be like the best weapon in loot pool, because, you know, the rapid fire SMG is pretty solid in my personal opinion. It's probably one of the better SMGs in this game, but who knows? Who really knows how this weapon would actually play out? Could be good, could also be really bad because of this effect. So who knows? Who knows? Alright, if you guys enjoyed that video, consider leaving the like and subscribing and using code WATSOG in the Fortnite item shop. Alright, that's about it. See you in the next one. Later.